Welcome to Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast, episode number 129. I am Jeff Halash. This is our live call-in show for computer repair techs, where we talk about business tips and ideas for your business. The call-in number is 1-888-697-0162. Let me introduce you to the co-hosts. We have Marvin B. from mbsystems.net. How you doing, Marvin?
I am Tom McCastick for the last month.
That's awesome. Very cool. Also joining us today, we have Ian Alexander from REPAIRTECH. How you doing, Ian?
Good. Thanks, Jeff.
Good to have you. And also we have joining us from the way East Coast, Charlie Hoover from BostonTechCollective.com. How you doing, Charlie?
Very good, thank you.
Good to have you all on board today. I think what we're going to start off doing, we have a ton of emails and a ton of stuff to get through on the show, and I'm excited. We missed last week because of Mother's Day. I didn't want to do a show because I was, catering to my wife. And, so, yeah, I was doing the right thing so that I could come back and do this and be with you guys. So, but I missing that 1 week really kind of puts me behind a little bit. And so I'm actually excited really to get back here and, and talk tech with you guys. So anyways, let's start off with Marvin. What types of things you've been working on in your business?
Oh, well, working on, probably the biggest thing I've done in the last couple of weeks is did a Office 365 migration that finished up this morning.
Oh, nice.
But not your typical Office 365 migration. We actually moved them from Microsoft's Office 365 to GoDaddy's Office 365.
Oh, okay.
So that was a little fun. Had a couple little hiccups. And I'll actually be talking with Lisa and Derek about that on their show in a week or two.
Okay. So, what was the major difference between the two?
Well, because they're already on a hosted exchange, and then we're just moving them from one to the other. So, the biggest thing that I found is that you either do back up to PST and then upload. But what I ended up doing, because I didn't have access to all of the computers, so I ended up using one of the tools from Code 2, the Office 365 backup, and I actually backed up everything directly from the Office 365 server, and then basically restored each mailbox through that tool instead of having to touch each and every station to do the backup. But I did touch each and every station to make sure that they, connected to the proper Office 365 server, and then basically started loading up their mail.
Okay, very cool. Good stuff, man. Yeah, it's Office 365 is still chugging along. A lot of people are switching over. And
the only other things I've got is we're actually I just got 3 commitments for server upgrades for a couple of clients that still have Windows 2003 server.
Ooh. Yeah, when do those go out?
Next month.
Next month, okay. Yeah. So it's this year, yeah, next month.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah, and there, everybody always waits till the last minute. It's like, you're going to spend the money one way or the other. What does it matter when you really spend it?
Right.
That's the way I look at it. But anyways, all right, very cool. And also, let's see, Charlie, what do you got going on in your guys' business over there? Oh, we don't have you.
Sorry about that. I was trying to keep the noise down.
That's all right.
Let's see. We've probably got about 10 or 12 projects for various business clients going at the same time. So,
okay.
A lot of Google Apps migrations and just a variety of, various size businesses. So.
Gotcha.
Kind of hard to sum all up.
Is Google Apps a little more popular than Office 365 where you guys are at, or?
Yeah, we tend to really like it over Office 365.
Okay.
So that's sort of where we lean. Also, a lot of our clients are nonprofits, and it's a lot easier to work with. So.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. No, that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. All right, and Ian, why don't you tell us what you've got going on? Because I know you've got a launch coming up here pretty soon that I know you're excited about to talk to the folks.
Yeah, definitely. We've talked about Kabuto before on here. I guess for those who aren't familiar, it's a fun app we've been working on. It's called Project Kabuto. You can check it out at projectkabuto.com, KABUTO.com. Basically, it's an application you install on your computer after you service a client, or sorry, you install it on a client's computer after you service them. And then it detects issues, pops up a little thing with your logo on it, and asks them if they want to request service. So it's a way for you to generate more jobs, and you can sell it as a managed service if you're trying to get into that. It also will prevent them from going to your competitor's shop next time their computer's broken. So that's been cool. It's definitely, like everything else, development related, taken longer than we expected to get done. We're doing some demos this week with some of our favorite people. Jeff's one of them. He gets a first sneak peek at what we're doing, and then we're going to launch a beta, and then hopefully, I'll say it now, but it's probably, I don't know. We'll see what happens. First or second week of next month is when we want to actually launch it. We'll see. So that's one thing we've been working on is Kabuto, and then we've also been working on this cool thing called IT Jetpack with Corey from Instant House Call. And I don't know if the website's done yet, but you can check it out at itjetpack.com. It's like a conference, but it's online, and it's going to be on Mondays. I think there's 5 different sessions, and it's just a way for you to learn about how to grow your business. So we've been working with him on that to kind of get stuff in place for it. So that's been fun. And then lastly, we just became a CompTIA vendor. So we're going to go to ChannelCon, and that was kind of fun. And yeah, that's about it. Can't complain.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate you bringing up the webinar with Corey Fruitman, because I'm actually hosting that, so I'll be a part of that. It's we run in small circles sometimes, it seems, but yeah, it's going to be one of those things that's going to be, we want to help other people in their businesses grow their businesses, learn things that they can do, and kind of to grow their business, and look in that direction to make their business better. And really, that's what that's kind of what we do here. And Corey Fruitman's dumped a lot of time into doing that stuff, so it's very cool.
Yeah.
But, and then we got, of course, you also mentioned the CompTIA ChannelCon, which is coming up August 3rd through the 5th, 2015. I just need to double check a couple things. I should have a link for registration coming up sometime this week, so look for that in the show notes when we get this posted on Thursday, and we should have all that information there. So you guys can go to the podnutz.com and check that out, and we'll, as many people that want to go, they want to grow your business, I really emphasize you going to something like this. There's going to be a lot of people there. I mean, if you want to meet some of the cool kids, like Chris Carruthers, who's not here today because he's got some family things he's doing, but you can meet that guy, and then I know some of us in this room right now we're going to be there. I'm going to be there. I mean, it is what it is. But anyways, no, we're gonna get together, and we're probably going to. I'm just going to put this out there. There's no guarantees, and there's nothing set in stone. I will just say this: we are trying to do a live podcast for all the different communities. We're going to bring everybody together, all the podcasters that want to be a part of it, and we're going to do a live podcast for the audience, maybe do some, question and answer sessions, and basically doing, kind of a meet and greet. We want to get together with people, and we can even get together after hours or whatever. So we'll be there I think Chris and I are going to be there for the full 4 days, so we'll actually be leaving on Sunday, getting there Sunday night, and then leaving sometime Thursday. So, but if you guys can come in and be a part of that, I will give you a way to get a free ticket as soon as I find out that information, and then you just have to get there. So as soon as I get that information, we'll get that out, and I look forward to seeing as many people there as possible, because I think it'll be a fun event where we can actually shake hands and kind of rub shoulders, so to speak. So
yeah, it'll be fun.
I'm excited.
The wife gave me permission, so we're going to start working on a way to get up there.
Awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I want to hug you, man.
I love you, man.
No, it's cool to sit here on the weekends and on a Sunday afternoon and talk with everybody, but to actually get to shake somebody's hand, see them in person, it's a whole different thing, and I'm looking forward to that, because I'm tired of sitting in my office and not engaging with the world. So this is a way for me to engage with the world.
Yep.
Yeah,
And-
Connor and I went to a conference called Channel Pro about a week ago,
okay.
and it was really crazy because I hadn't been to one of these conferences before, and I didn't expect to know anybody there. But we went, and half the booths contained someone that we had talked to via email or on the phone at some point. I recognized some people from their like LinkedIn profile pictures, so it was really kind of funny how small the whole world is. I met, I saw some of the guys from ACRBO there, and just there were a lot of people. It's really just a small industry, so it's fun to go to those things because you get to meet people in person.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. Very cool. All right, so I think with that, let's go ahead and get into some emails. We've got a lot of emails, so we're playing a little bit of catch up, but I figured I've got a good panel on here to answer some of these questions because obviously I don't have all the answers, so I look to you guys for the answers. So better give me some good ones.
Chris does, and we'll pick up the slack for him.
Okay. There's 3 of you, so you should be able to. So and there's nobody to disagree with. So no. Anyways. All right, this one says, this is from Justin, and says, Jeff, I want to focus my repair shop in Louisville, Kentucky, TechBusters IT Solutions for a business-to-business type of operation. I am struggling when trying to get other businesses to work with me. I have a strong background in IT and have helped many residential customers who all are happy and satisfied. How should I go about getting my first small business customer? Or better yet, how can I close the deal with a business customer? Thanks. Justin Fig from TechBusters IT Solutions. Thanks for the email, Justin. And I'm going to pass this question off to you guys. What's the best way to go about getting that first business customer?
I guess I can go first. There's a couple really easy ways. I actually wrote a blog post about this recently, but you can go to your Chamber of Commerce. They have a bunch of events. So going to the chamber and attending one of those events, you'll meet all the people who are owning their own business, and you can see what they do, see if they need help with stuff, and tell them about what you do, and listen to what problems they're having in their business with IT. And that's a great way to do it. Another way that you can get your first client is you can trade services, which is a good way to get kind of a case customer testimonial kind of client. So you can go into, let's say, I don't know why this is the first thing that comes to my mind. You can go to like a bakery and say, hey, I'll trade you 100 croissants a month for, I'll give you $200 worth of computer repair a month. And, they're not giving you money, but they're giving you food, I guess. I don't know why I picked this. But you can use them as a testimonial customer and ask them to put your business cards on their desk so that when people check out they'll see it, and you can have a flyer that says, do you own a business? We can help, just like we do here.
Very good. Yeah, no, that's very good advice. Marvin, how about you? Since you're mostly in business, right?
I am, but I kind of got lucky in the beginning because I had a lot of my customers from when I worked at the store. So I already had a couple of business contacts, but the way that I grew was simply by referral. And what he's asking, how to get the first business customer, and you really just gotta hustle. Maybe some of the residential customers will have business contacts. You just keep passing out the business cards, and maybe do a flyer. When I first left my business shop, and I posted a whole bunch of flyers, took them to all the customers, and said, hey, I was building systems back then, so that was the way I got started, was to build a system for somebody, and I built a lot of custom systems for small businesses. So that's one way to do it. The other things that I did do the networking. We did not have a BNI in our area. We actually had a group that was just started by a couple of guys. It was called the Executives of Broward. And basically the same principles as a BNI, where we met every week. It was consistent. There was only one business per category. So I was the IT person. We had an insurance person. We had the real estate people. Getting involved in one of those is probably one of the quickest ways to get business contacts, because that's really the only reason that you're meeting, is to give each other business.
Right. No, very good points. And Charlie, what do you say?
No, I think those are actually probably the best ways to start off, especially if you're looking for the first one. Really pound the streets, pound the pavement, go to local things, reach out into the community. Like that's pretty much what's done it for us. Having a storefront helps too, but at least in our case. But
Right.
when we first opened, we literally went door to door handing out business cards at all the local businesses. And it took a while for some of them to eventually come around, but we've actually gotten, over time, a lot of people just from that, let alone just people sort of slowly finding out that you're there and that you're reliable, and really it's about building your reputation. And BNI is a great way to network, or like you said, Chamber of Commerce. So yeah, I agree.
Right. No, and that's a good point. And I was going to bring that point up, but you already did. Was that a lot of times when you're handing out business cards or brochures to these companies, sometimes they're not going to be, they might already have an IT department, or they might already have an IT person that's working with them, and you're not in there to steal business or anything like that. You're just, hey, if you ever need anything, here you go. Here's my business card. Here's my brochure on what we do, and you never know. It could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be a couple years down the road. They might, something might happen with the other person or whatever, and they call you, and that's how you get started in business. But a lot of people, I think, are looking for the quick way to get started, and to be honest, there is none. You have to work, and these guys have said it, pounding the pavement, letting people know you're there, let your reputation speak for itself.
All right. And what Charlie said about consistency is key, to keep being in their line of vision.
Right.
So that, and just like you mentioned, something may happen to the other tech. I've had that happen a couple of times where people call because, yes, they had a tech, but for some reason they either can't get a hold of them, or the tech leaves the industry, or something. And, in the case of my last two that I had like that, they were basically, hey, we have that card from that guy, call him. And
right.
So I got business out of that.
Oh, that's great. That's cool. So hopefully, Justin, that helps you out, and you get something, some good nuggets from that you can use in your business. The next email is it's actually from our owner, Steve McLaughlin, from Door to Door Geek, and he says, "Hello, Jeff. I saw this I think this could be a great resource for beginning techs." And basically, what it is, it's on Wiki. It's wikibooks.org. It's how to back up operating systems, and he sent this, and I think this is something that we're not really going to talk about as far as how to back up operating systems, but I'm going to put this link in the show notes so that you guys can go check it out. And I think really this is for any tech, because there are many different ways to back up your operating systems, and you have to find the one that's going to work for you and it's going to be that you can consistently do. Because if you set up a backup system that you can't do or don't do or forget to do, it's not really a backup system. So we'll definitely put that show link in there, and so you guys can go check that out. This is from Jason C. Let's see. Okay, and this says, "Hi, Jeff. I was watching the podcast yesterday, this is a couple weeks ago, when you guys were talking about my previous email about Windows piracy. At one point, you guys were talking about Windows activation. I believe Paco mentioned something about Microsoft having a mobile website. When you call up to do a Microsoft phone activation, it offered a mobile link so that you could do the phone activation from a website. On your phone, I believe. He mentioned it briefly that he did it last week when he did a phone activation. My question is, did Paco post a link in the show notes or instructions on how he got the mobile link offered to him during phone activation? Just wanted to know, since I would like to try it out to see if I could get it to work." And here was Paco's response. So he had sent this email off. He said, "Hi, Jason. The process I went through was call the activation number given in the activation screen." And he puts it on here, 1-888-725-1047. On that call, they will ask you if you have a smartphone. If so, they state press 1, and they will send a text with the URL. And he said the URL I got was whatever. It was a bit.ly URL, which still looks to be valid. So he had checked that again, and it still looks like it's the same valid site. So I'll have that in the show notes. It said, "From there, I simply added the numbers on the screen as you would via the phone system and retrieved the other set of numbers for activation. Regards, Paco LeBron." Thank you, Paco, and thank you, Jason, for that email, and we'll have that process in the show notes so you guys can check that out. Do you guys ever do any phone activations concerning Windows and ever see that prompt come up?
Recently, yes.
Okay.
Which is a lot better than, I'm not sure if it's better or not, really. Because you're still putting in that, ginormous
Exactly.
40 or 50 character craziness. So I don't know if it really helps, but it's mobile, so
Right. It's nice to have that option. So it's definitely something you can do. I've never been disconnected from a call, but since using a cell phone, I always get concerned when I'm doing that activation for a vanilla OEM version of Windows 7 or whatever, and I'm like going, man, if I lose this phone call, I said, what's going to happen? So as a matter of fact, I don't, because my signal is sometimes bad. I used to speak the numbers into the phone. I don't anymore. I actually use my touchpad and touch the numbers in to get it to work properly. So that's what works for me. But anyways, anyone else? Probably not. Ian, you don't install Windows. Do you?
I install Windows all the time, unfortunately. I just don't usually have to deal with that anymore.
Gotcha.
Recently, I've actually, most of the time I need to use Windows is for testing. I use Linux primarily, and when we do it, we just have a VM that we download from Microsoft. So I don't really have to deal with that, which is great. Unfortunately, it's slow as hell because it's a VM.
Right. Sure. But it's easier than having to install it and wipe out and reinstall and all that kind of stuff. So very good. And Marvin, you?
I haven't had to use that for Windows activation in a very long time. We do either the HP or Dell machine, so I rarely have to do that. But I do a lot of Office activations over the phone because the 2010 download keys were notorious for never activating when you put them in, so you always have to call, and that's a pain.
Right. Yeah. I think they have a website now for Windows 2010 in particular, where you can put in the key that you have from whatever version it was, or from that version, and it will give you a download. And usually, I've never had a problem. Once I get that download, I don't have to go back in and activate it for some reason.
Yeah, if you do it through the office.com/setup, which I hate that too.
Well, yeah, it's all, but at least Microsoft has the information there. So if you absolutely need to do it,
right.
I don't do a whole lot of wipe and reloads anymore. It's such a pain and takes so long. I don't deal with it. So I would rather I don't want to mess with reinstalling all that stuff.
Yeah, we really only deal with usually if I'm in the field on a residential call, that's usually where I'd run into the product activation thing. And usually it's because they've actually gotten a pirated copy of something from some other technician. But
Terrible.
it's pretty rare these days. Probably maybe once a month do I have to deal with that anymore, which is drastically down from a few years ago. So
I'm gonna say this. Any technicians out there that are actually using pirated software, stop it. Okay, you're making us all look bad. Stop it. Be legitimate.
Yes.
Do what you need to do in your business, but that's not how you run a business. So, anyways, my 2 cents.
There was a relatively long technical thread about that recently. It was pretty interesting.
Okay, very cool. I'll have to go in there and check that out. All right, so this is from John. It says, hello, guys. I started listening to your podcast about 2 weeks ago, and I'm currently running through your backlog pretty quickly. While I do not own my own computer repair business or fully understand everything you guys are talking about, I'm a pretty novice computer user. I really enjoy your show. The dynamic between all of you is entertaining, hilarious, and informative. I wish that I had one of you close by in Arkansas so that I could take my computer to you for any issues. I would definitely sign up for your managed service. I don't have a question, just wanted to let you know that I think you have a great show and hope it continues for years to come. Thank you, John from Arkansas. Well, I appreciate that, John. That's great that somebody's watching this show that doesn't actually have a computer repair business, and it's great that you find us hilarious because I find that hilarious. But no, hopefully we like to have a good time on this show, and we just like to share, and hopefully hey, maybe down in the future you'll start your own computer repair business, and some of this stuff can help you, or even as a if you like to dabble in computers even yourself. I mean, that's how we all started, was working on our own stuff. And so if any of this stuff can help you, that's awesome. Appreciate the email, John. All right. And this is from Dave Feist. Hope I said your name right. It says, wonder if you had any luck doing a slipstream. We talked about this, I think, in a previous show. Do you know of a place to download a finished product or a super easy tutorial? Just don't have the time. I emailed you a few weeks ago about being so busy and barely making it. I have since raised my prices, which is the first thing I suggested to him. Trying to find time to do my website and more. So hard to keep up. Friday, I also did a Photoshop build, hybrid drive, and 2 small SSD drives. Got it all done. The same message you got on your own PC about a missing device. Did you have to reload? And we'll go into that in a minute. It's almost like starting over. Old pricing structure, and got so many hours into this already. I have a yearly cleanup plan that I've been doing since 2005 when I was a double agent at Geek Squad. I love that. Some of those customers followed me when I left, about 100 regular customers per year. Might help new guys get repeat business. I'm interested in managed services for home users too. Any good links for that? Thanks, Jeff. Love the show and learning so much. Chris kills me. Funny guy. Appreciate that, Dave. As far as the message I got on my computer when my data drive died and it corrupted my SSD for some reason, I believe that was the master boot record. They got messed up. And, you can just go into, your command line and do a fix MBR on that to make that work. I had an image, so I just re-imaged it real quick. It was just easier to do that than to sit there and go through and start up a utility and get the command line going. So mine was a different use case scenario. But once I got a regular data drive back in there that was working, it worked fine. So that's one of the reasons I don't like using dual drives. Unfortunately, in today's day and age, if you're using SSDs for your main operating system, especially in a desktop, 1 terabyte drives are expensive. Well, they're fairly expensive, but then to have all that data swapping back and forth on there, you're gonna wear that drive out. So, I opted to go with an SSD, which I use for my operating system, which is Windows 8.1, and I have a data drive, that keeps all my data on it. And these are the things you run into sometimes when doing that. And I remember this from 10 years ago, doing the same things when I was running dual mechanical drives, and that's why I said I'll never do this again. But with the speed of the SSDs, it's something I had to suck up and do myself, so it is what it is. Anyways, yeah, that's a good idea on the yearly cleanup. There's a lot of different solutions out there for, basically doing, a yearly cleanup or doing a monthly managed type service. There's Max Focus out there. I think that, Ian, with this Project Kabuto coming out, I think there's going to be a way to, get back to learning things on your customers' computers as far as when something goes wrong so that they can contact you type thing and kind of make the customer a little more aware of what's going on. So that's a form of a managed type service. But yeah, right now I'm using Max Focus for my managed services. So I don't know what you guys are using, but go ahead. Marvin?
I'm using Max Focus as well.
Okay. And how about you, Charlie?
Well, right now we're using a Continuum for most of our sort of MSP kind of things.
Okay.
For residential, mostly we have them on Screen Connect. So, sort of between the two things, it works out pretty well. We've got the full management suite for for business clients that are on maintenance plans, that kind of thing.
Okay.
And then for residentials, we give them the option. We've got sort of regular maintenance things with we've got plans that they can sign up to where we can come out once, twice, 3 times a year, whatever. But we also offer to put the Screen Connect client on there so that if they need anything, we can jump in, or if they just need something quick, they can do it on the website.
Sure.
So,
that's great.
And yeah, that's
what were you gonna say?
what we do. Oh, I was gonna say that's pretty much what we do.
Okay. Oh, very cool. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways you can break into this managed service, a little bit at a time, or you can, really go full bore with it. Just depends on what you want to do. And you just got to find something that's going to work for not only you for what you can manage, but also what your customers are willing to pay for, whether it be residential or business. And I think you can do that. There's, many things out there to use, and I'm working on a couple things that'll be coming up here in the next couple months, and I'll let you know how it's working out. So.
Well, speaking of what customers are willing to pay for, I do have 2 clients that are using the LogMeIn Central product.
Okay.
And even though the price just went up, that's a way for them to, with their their HR directors or administrators, they also have access to the workstations as well as I do. So they pay for it that way. If I stop working with them or something, they still have that product. So we have a couple people that are paying for that, but they're doing that on their own.
Gotcha. I'm just looking at the chat room. Somebody just, Jason C1400 said, Jeff, I find it a pain to download the ISOs from Microsoft. I just downloaded the files from MSDN and store them on my easy to boot drive. Yeah, I do the same thing. I've got all my ISOs, and except I still do some old school, on the disk, and I do it that way, or put it on a USB thumb drive or whatever. But as far as I think we were talking about Microsoft Office, those are all executables now, so they're not even ISOs anymore. You can download those fairly easily. On my connection, it takes, I think, I don't know, about 2 minutes to get it down, so it's not really that big a deal. And that's just so that when we're talking about Office, so that I don't have to go through and try to figure out how to call in and activate the the Office suite. It just, for whatever reason, when you put in your key and it gives you the download, it seems like it hooks right up. So that's kind of why I do that. Anyways, all right, cool. So yeah, people are willing to pay a certain amount for well, whatever. You know what I tell my customers? I have customers that come to me. I said this before. Customers will say, "How do I stop from getting infected?" And I say, "You can't." And so here's what we can do. We can minimize the damage by putting you on some sort of managed service that's going to check your stuff on a daily basis and keep you as clean as possible. If you do get infected, we'll get the infection off, free of charge, that type of thing. And that's the only way that you're going to have the same computing experience on a day-to-day basis, barring hardware failing on you, which we have no control over that. So. But as far as the software is concerned, yes, I think that's the best way to keep your systems clean. So,
quick question for you guys that are using GFI. Do you guys use the web monitor?
Yes.
How do you feel about it?
You know what? I don't have a complaint from my customers. They don't have any infections or anything on their machine, so I'm assuming that it was working right.
Okay, cool. And the reason, okay. The only reason I ask is because it seems like it's more expensive than like the Max system, right? I mean, it's like kind of expensive for being a browser plugin.
Yeah, I guess. But if you get the whole kit and caboodle all at one time, I think it's fairly inexpensive. And then obviously you mark that up a little bit to your customers, or mark it up a lot depending on what you're doing with automatic scripting and stuff like that. I just know that my customers that were getting severely infected on a regular basis are no longer getting severely infected on a regular basis. So, and it's been, for one, it's almost a year. For a couple others, it's been almost a year. So
are you installing that on like residential clients or
yes.
business clients, and you're just doing that for the people who seem to keep coming back, or are you doing it on everybody?
Well, I'm going to get to a point where I'm doing it on everybody, but I'm working on something right now that I'll hopefully be able to bring up here in the next couple months and see how it works for me, because I do want to get something that's going to be, I've looked at the antivirus suites and stuff like that, and I'm looking at those to figure out, okay, if a customer doesn't want to pay for the managed service, will they pay for a good paid for antivirus, which will it will help them keep them malware and virus free for the most part, not 100%, but it'll help them. And so I'm just looking at the best ways to protect customers, because even with the free antivirus, malware bytes, or in different things like that, you can keep them pretty clean, but people just don't pay attention. They download whatever, and and it's, by the time their system gets gooked up, it's all like, hey, they don't bring it to you till Internet Explorer or Google Chrome or something doesn't get on the internet. Because even when Internet Explorer breaks, they just go to Google Chrome until that breaks, and then they'll go to Firefox until that breaks, and then they bring it to you. So I don't understand that, but here, let me open this web browser. Hey, I'm going to get a cup of coffee. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Just get used to it. Yeah.
And it's true. And when it slows down a little bit over time, you're right, Charlie. A lot of those people, they just get used to it, and they're like, this is normal, and I'm like going, I would rather stick a fork in my eye than to deal with that. But that's just me.
Most of us in the IT world kind of get isolated. We don't
True.
we don't experience what they experience, and
Right.
it's from having done like residential work for well over a decade now, like in person. I can definitely say that people get used to the worst things, and they develop rituals around it. They'll turn their computer on and they'll move the mouse to where they know a pop-up will show up, and they'll wait and then they'll click it just as it shows up, and just sort of they just have a ritual around the whole thing. Literally the cup of coffee thing.
That's true.
Because they're afraid to ask to try and get it fixed, or they don't want it to be too expensive, or whatever.
Right.
So.
No, that's good, Charlie. Yeah, you're right. People do the same things over and over again, and to them that is normal. And I didn't realize, sometimes when I tell my customers that, you're not going to get your computer back anytime quick, or as quick as you think, it's going to be 24 to 48 hours. Some people still ask, well, can you get it done today? Absolutely not. I didn't realize until my computer went down and I was in full panic mode of how sometimes people feel when it's their only computer. And I've got 10 computers running around here, so it wasn't my only computer, and I was still in panic mode because it was my main production machine. So gave me a little eye-opener. So maybe that's somebody trying to tell me something and say, hey, you really need to care about those customers because, they're important too, and they need their internet, whatever, to play Mahjong or whatever they're playing, solitaire.
Well, the thing is, they're the carriers. They're the ones that get themselves infected and are spreading the infections without even noticing.
Right.
So they're actually poisoning the pool and they don't even know it.
That's a good point. And yeah, hopefully we're cleaning that pool up so that we can stop them from infecting others. Very cool. All right. So let's go on to, this is from Jason. It says, hi, Jeff. It says, when you're fixing customers' computers or fixing multiple PCs, do you run multiple tools or do you have just one piece of software for use? The reason I ask this is because my shop has started getting more clients. Recently, I'm looking for something that helps fixing computers faster and more efficient. On another note, I know you and Chris and the others all run into removing viruses all the time. Most computer technicians use different tools to remove malware and such, and Malwarebytes seems to be a top tool to use. Do you know, is there a portable version of Malwarebytes that I can download legally or a program that can make it portable? Thanks, Jason. And I'd send a response back to Jason. You guys can chime in on this, but I basically said that Malwarebytes, the way their licensing and things work, you can download the free version of it and use it that way. But I don't think there's any portable version that I know of, unless somebody knows different on here.
Yeah, so the way that Malwarebytes works is, as a technician, you are basically not allowed to use Malwarebytes unless you have the TechBench license. The TechBench license gives you Malwarebytes on a USB drive with Chameleon, and then you can use it legally. They don't have a problem with you installing it on a client's computer. So you can install Malwarebytes or Malwarebytes Premium on someone's computer, but you can't use it to remove malware legally. So I know everybody loves Malwarebytes. We talked to them quite a few times about getting it in TechSuite, but it's just a little complicated, and it's funny because their original demographic was techs, and you'd think that they'd be a little more catering to them, but
yeah, and so it's one of those issues, and we've talked about this before, but it's one of those things where I go, like my contract says to the customer basically that I am going to install software for you in your name and basically use it for your machine, and so on and so forth. And so a lot of times that's what I do, and a lot of people they might use the free version of Malwarebytes if they want to pay for the full version, which will help keep, Malwarebytes is great, and it's great to have the paid-for version that'll run automatically in the background, and that definitely will help keep your customers a lot cleaner. So that is a great piece of software. I think they went, I don't know if you can still get lifetime licenses or not, but I think they went to a paid-for version yearly, which is not a whole lot different than, your antivirus software. And I know I've been using Bitdefender lately, and Bitdefender basically has the same things built into it almost, in my opinion, as Malwarebytes did for getting rid of that type of malware. So there are other paid solutions that have an antivirus and everything all in one Now, everybody will argue and say this one's better than that one, and there's no perfect scenario out there, so you have to use usually a combination of tools to get you to where you need to be. So it's it can be tough.
That's for sure. Yeah, we do it two different ways. I mean, we've got the shop. They have a checklist, a good old-fashioned. They print out a paper checklist that follows the machine around the shop.
Amen, brother. That's the way to do it.
It's low tech, but it really works. And they just sort of hash out, whatever the latest utilities are, and they just change the list, accordingly. And it's a very, very, very low tech, like I said, but it does work. In the field, it's a little different. I don't really use like Malwarebytes or anything. I'm kind of old school. I can clean up 99% of this crap with either bootable Linux and maybe just a little bit of hijack this magic, and most of it can die a horrible, horrible death with that. So.
Okay. Very cool. Yeah, I think malware. The Malwarebytes, definitely hits a lot of different things, but it's a nice tool because you can run it, walk away, come back, and it's finished and done whatever it's done. I use it for cleaning up remnants and different things like that of just stuff that I don't really go searching for after I've cleaned the registry and different things. So there's definitely different ways to do it. And I think as long as you have a process in place, that's the most important thing. Just have a process and do it the same every time, checklists and all that.
There's a reason why everybody does it a little differently, because not everything works, and so there's really it's not so much a matter of whether there's a right way or a wrong way. It's just, are you consistent, and does it seem to work?
Yep.
And don't stick to the tools if the tools don't seem to be working.
Right.
So don't just because Malwarebytes works this week doesn't mean it's going to work next week.
Absolutely.
So just try to be flexible and consistent.
Yep.
And I think like one aspect of that is kind of everybody knows that Best Buy or whoever, I shouldn't have said their name, whoever, big box stores. Best Buy isn't the only one that's guilty. One of the reasons why they are notorious for having horrible results is because the people in those stores are not empowered to use the tools they want. For example, we talked to an unnamed, really big box store, and they told us the tools that they currently provided to their technicians, and I was like, you expect them to be able to fix computers with those 3 tools? And they said yes. And so what ends up happening is either the technicians abide by those rules and therefore are not able to catch everything, because even if you have something like Malwarebytes and let's say Super Anti-Spyware and CCleaner, right, which isn't even a malware removal tool, those 3 things in combination are not going to catch 99% of malware, right? So what ends up happening is those technicians go rogue and they start using other tools, or they abide by what they're supposed to do, and the computers don't get good results. So that's just kind of proof that if you don't want to have that reputation, what you need to do is use 4 to 5 scanners.
Okay. And obviously, the TechWarrior has a lot of different things in there, and I know you guys have a suggested setup of different things that run and run automatically and can clean that machine up. The only thing I started to find was, because I was one of those technicians that would run like 12 hours worth of scans. Okay, I was one of those guys, and there's still techs like that that do that today, and that's fine. Whatever. If I had super clean machines, but what I started noticing is that these when I was running all these multiple tools, eventually some of these tools I stopped getting anything back. And it's because it's like, okay, so some of these tools are doing this almost the same exact thing, so you definitely have to pick which tools you're going to use to be able to do that without overlapping and wasting a bunch of scan time on those machines.
Yeah, definitely true. Definitely true.
I think it's very easy for a lot of folks to sort of attribute malware to magic in a way, but when you really break any malware down, no matter what it is, from fully polymorphic rootkits to the stuff that encrypts your hard drive to whatever, just the random toolbars and crap, it's all software. It's all bits. It all has to obey the laws of the operating system in one way or another to run. So it's all files. So tracking them down is not magic. So running 100 tools is not necessarily going to help.
Right.
So
yeah, and it's like I think your point too, Charlie, is that you really need to look at this from a manual standpoint and at least understand what you're removing and where some of these tools are actually working and removing, instead of just throwing a tool at it and going, well, that should fix it. Well, that should fix it. Well, that should fix it. Okay. Are you looking in the registry? Are you looking in the app data folder? Are you're looking in these different spots where some of this malware likes to hide? Because let's face it, the reality is malware really doesn't hide in a whole lot of different places. It's been hiding in pretty much the same places since like Windows 98. I mean, the basic kernel of the system is almost the same. So it's not like it's something new. And if you want it to run, if a bad guy wants it to run on your system, it has to be in one of these spots. So you really need to know what you're looking at. And then if you are using an automatic tool to save time, which I fully endorse, and I do, then know what that tool is doing and know where it's pulling from and know what it's getting out of there, that type of thing. Again, it's a learning process, right?
Oh,
right. And I think that. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, no. This was just a random anecdote. For any techs out there. If you are cleaning up a machine, just make sure you just take a quick look at the task scheduler on Windows. I've been noticing more and more malware shoving stuff in there, and not all the scanners check there. So if you just a quick manual glance, if you see a lot of crap in there that you just don't recognize, just take it out. So if Windows needs to do something, it'll put it back.
Yeah.
Anyway,
good point. Good point there. No, that's good. That's good. What were you gonna say, Ian?
I was gonna say that you have to. It depends on your business, but you have to find a balance between a process that requires an expert technician and a process that's easily doable. Right? Because you want to know what you're doing, but you don't want it to be a super hands-on process, because that does not enable you to scale. Right? So the process that you're going to use to manually find malware on one computer is going to require your attention and not necessarily allow you to work on 10 computers. So you kind of have to find a balance between not just throwing a bunch of things at it for the hell of it, and enabling less experienced technicians to do their job effectively without having to have all the experience you have of 20 years of fixing computers. So it's it's a balancing act there. But again, I do agree. You have to switch out tools all the time, because sometimes tools just go bad.
Right.
I remember back in the day, everybody used to use Spybot Search and Destroy. For some, I think some people still use that, but hardly anybody anymore.
Actually, there's a lot of technicians that are actually using that. It's on a comeback, believe it or not.
Drives me crazy. I hate that thing.
Yes. I haven't used it in years, but yes, there are technicians out there right now that swear by it and use it, and they say it's the guy's. He's doing it again, and I think it was a German fellow, and he's basically re-updating it, and it's got a new GUI and all kinds of stuff. So I haven't checked it out.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
I'll take. Yeah. Well, what it is? They really burned. I mean, I had a lot of clients that ended up installing it on their own, and they all ended up with that tea timer thing. I don't know if you guys remember that thing.
Oh yes, I do remember that. Yep.
Holy crap! Was
yeah,
that was a nightmare. So I'm if he fixed it, great, but yeah, I'm a little wary. So.
Well, CCleaner's kind of getting that way now, where it has its own it's active monitoring now. So it's like. So I don't get me wrong, I still use a portable version of CCleaner. I clean stuff, even though I don't really have to. But to be honest with you, even after a cleanup, sometimes I'll run that, and I'll still, even after doing all temp files and everything, even with my prior tools, I'll still get like 8 gigs of just junk, and I have no idea where it was at or whatever. But I'm just like, wow, that's a lot. So just cruft over the time, but. No, it's one of those things where, and I agree, I'm always looking for ways to automate my business, but I also want to make sure that I have a basic understanding. It's the same reason I require my kids to, learn to work on their own car. Not that I want them to be experts on working on that car, but just, how do I change my oil? How do I change a tire? If something's not working right, where can I go get the information to look at it? And before taking it to a mechanic and going here, and the mechanic goes, well, this, and this is wrong with it, and it's like, well, if you don't have a basic idea, they could tell you anything's wrong with it and it doesn't matter. So I'm on the basis of, have at least a basic understanding, but then use the automated tools to make your process quick and, the same every time. Marvin, you haven't said anything.
Because pretty much you guys are saying what needs to be said. I mean, we've all been in situations where we've run our tools and we get into a pattern.
Yep.
And all of a sudden the pattern doesn't work. And the good technician is somebody who is going to change the pattern, to adapt. And we've all been there. It's and it's not that the tools always stop working. It's that the malware learns how to hide.
Right.
And the tools update at different times, and they all don't update in sequence with the malware. So 1 week it's going to be JRT that works, the next week ADW cleaner, road killer. I think the benefit of what we need to teach each other is how to recognize when it's time to adapt, and to know, if this isn't working, you've got to be able to intuitively, as a tech, do troubleshooting. That's really, what we do. And
right.
So
Good
we've
point.
all said it.
It's also just to bring it back to what Ian was saying, is it's also a matter of looking at things in sort of a holistic sense, in that you want to look at what the priorities are for the client, depending on how much effort, like it should impact how much effort you should put into it yourself. If you have to fix 10 computers, you have to really think about what your process is, versus if you just have to fix, one machine, and what kind of machine is it? Is it 10 years old? You want to sort of find a right balance between spending a lot of time on something and not.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Good points. Good points. All right, let's move on to the next email. I think we've gotten that one fully. Okay, so this says, hi all at Podnutz. Love the shows. Listen to all Podnutz and Geeksters. I'm emailing to see if I could get some advice on a laptop repair. I've done quite a few laptop repairs, screen replacements, keyboards, hard drives, etc., but have seen a Sony Vaio white model SFV 152C2-9M, and some of the keys don't seem to work. The bottom row and a few in the middle, so I can't log into Windows as the password has characters from the bottom row that I need. It says I plugged a USB cable in, and that works fine. So took apart the laptop, I'm assuming a USB keyboard, and seems like the cable is okay. Unplug keyboard and put it back in, and still the same. So thinking to replace the keyboard itself. But this is the problem. The keyboard is under the laptop case, and there's no way to unclip it from the top, like some others have done, the top where the keyboard is underneath. So when I look at the bottom bit of the case, it comes off, the motherboard, etc. are there, and the keyboard is underneath everything. Yes, you have to love those Sony Vaios and Ultrabooks. So I'm hoping you understand all that and have had some dealing with these laptops. If I buy a replacement keyboard, am I going to totally strip the laptop down and replace it? Thanks for the show. Keep up the great work. Craig from England. Thank you for the email, Craig. And what I did was I emailed Craig back after I looked up we kind of went back and forth. The keyboard he was talking about, it's basically got the island keys that sit up underneath the plastic on the top of the laptop case. So you actually have to remove the motherboard and all the internals. And then the problem he was seeing was there is a piece of metal on the opposite side of the motherboard side that actually holds the keyboard in place for half the keyboard. So after looking at, he sent me some pictures. I looked at it real quick. I did a search because he said he couldn't find a white keyboard. I looked at a white keyboard on eBay, and basically it was more of a flexible keyboard, and that's the reason they have the white, the metal on the one side of the motherboard. So if you when I looked at it, it looks like if you remove the motherboard and everything, you can slide that keyboard out from the side, slide a new keyboard back in, put everything back together, and you should be good to go. Now, that was a guess just from looking at the pictures and looking at the keyboard myself from what I could see. So if anybody has anything else on that they've dealt with in the past, please feel free to share. Anyone?
I wish I had Matt from our shop here. He would. He'd probably have that memorized. But yeah, sorry. I don't really take machines apart that much anymore. Well,
Okay.
laptops anymore.
Gotcha.
No laptop work here.
We do it at the shop. I mean, we will disassemble anything at the shop. But since I'm in the field most of the time, I usually just bring it there. So I'm really rusty on ripping laptops apart. So
Gotcha. Well, and
especially BIOS.
yeah, I was gonna. The vials are horrible for a lot of things, but you know the Ultrabooks are all the same too. I mean, you literally have to take these things apart.
Oh yeah.
You got to strip the whole thing down to get to anything on them. So.
Yep.
Marvin, you don't deal with that stuff. You buy HPs or Dells, right? You tell them we're not buying nothing with a digitizer. We're not buying nothing with anything else. We're just buying a plain old laptop.
We'll sell them laptops and tablets, but we're not going to fix them.
Gotcha. It's fair enough. Ian, have you ever seen anything like that?
No. I mean, I actually haven't. They didn't have Ultrabooks when I was fixing computers. So I never really had to deal with that. That was actually they had MacBook Airs, but I don't think I ever fixed a MacBook Air. So I don't think I ever had to deal with that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Max. Well, any of these things, the thinner they get, the harder they are to work on. So.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just things are glued together, and it's bad.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, I steer people away from those. No, we're not getting you a touchscreen laptop. Just getting you a regular laptop. That way, when you bust the screen, I can replace it easily. All right. Let's see. We are on. Yeah, we've had a ton of emails, and I definitely appreciate everyone sending their emails, and we even have a voicemail if we get to it. Okay, so let's go move on to the next email. It says, and this is from Michael Lacerda. It says, "Hi, Jeff. Found your show, Podnutz Computer Repair Podcast, by accident." I don't know how you do that. And a couple of months ago, and I have to tell you, I'm very glad that I did. Well, I'm glad that you found us. Though I have been fixing computers on a volunteer basis for a few years now, I have decided with what is left of my spare time that I would finally start to charge people money to do the work. Good. That's it. That's where we all start at. I will still, however, continue to volunteer for the senior community that I've been at. That's a great place to, definitely give your time, because they definitely need help with computers and, talking to their loved ones and all that kind of stuff. So that's cool. I have been wanting to ask a question on one of your podcasts. You were speaking with a guy about music storage. You mentioned a site that if you use them to store all your music library, that you could then download a high bitrate 320, I believe, 320 bitrate, no matter what the bitrate of the original file was. Do you remember what the site is? I have a collection of 10,000 plus songs, and I'm looking for the best place safely to store them online. And if I can get them at a 320 bitrate, well, that would just be a bonus. I have a ton of other questions I could ask you, but I will try to meter them over time. I appreciate all you guys are doing over there. Keep up the great work. Mike Lacerda. Thank you, Mike, for the email. And I sent him an email back. I honestly don't remember talking about music storage. I know I did upload my music, which is nowhere near 10,000 files, to Google's music player online or in the cloud. And I think what I said was I think Apple has and I don't know if they're still doing it, but they had an ability where, okay, go ahead. Whoever said yes, go ahead and talk about that. Whatever.
It's what happens when you pay the $25 a year fee to Apple. It's part of their what's it called? Crap! I just lost it. iTunes Match.
Okay.
And what iTunes Match will do is it'll scan through your library, and no matter what the source was, it will match it up to, if it's in their library, it'll match it up and give you access to a high-quality digital version of it, like a download version. And anything that isn't in their library, it just uploads. Now, the trick with that, if you have a bunch of low-quality stuff, you can have it match it up to the cloud, then delete everything from your iTunes library, and then have it re-download all these high-quality tracks. That's kind of the sort of workaround.
Okay.
But that's if you really, really, really want to go for that. I find that Google Music is actually, I mean, you don't get the super high quality, but it's free and it's just as easy, and it can pull from iTunes. Matter of fact, you can sort of chain those two things together, get the high quality, and then have Google Music upload those. So it's not that I've ever driven it.
In our crappy earbuds that we're using, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, you're not going to notice.
You're not gonna.
I mean,
and when you get older, you're not going to notice. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Now, for a guy like Ian, you know, he's, I mean, it might still matter to him, but to the rest of us, no.
I'm getting there. Yeah, I just use Ardio, which is like a Spotify competitor.
Gotcha.
I don't have enough crazy unique music for it to really bum my trip that I'm not getting it on Ardio. So they have pretty much everything that I would ever listen to. So.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yep.
Marvin, you don't listen to music, do you?
I still have vinyl.
Of course. You do.
Hey, you could get that the Pono player.
Well, you know, funny story, and I'll tell it. I'll tell this. So my brother and I years ago, I used to break dance. Anyways, long story. Not really. I used to break dance. So my brother and I had the boom boxes, and we had all the cassette tapes and everything. And basically, the cassette tapes we had, he still has today. So what he has done is he's taking this whole collection of tapes and he's running it through a digital audio workstation and basically, you know, adding a little bass to it, you know, kind of adjusting it a little bit. But some of these old tracks we used to listen to on these tapes, they sound phenomenal, and he's done a really good job with them. And so that's a lot of our old school music that we used to listen to, and we really enjoy. So, but other than that, you know, some of the stuff even I've gotten in the last, you know, 10, 15 years, if I lost it, I have it, but I don't. It doesn't really matter because, like you said, Ian, you can go to RDO or Spotify or Pandora or whatever and get most of that music that you want. So. Yep. Or the iTunes or, you know, Google Music. You know, they're all fairly cheap enough that you can do it. I just don't. I listen to more podcasts than I do music, so it doesn't benefit me to have something like that.
Yeah.
MP3 Fiesta.
Yeah,
that's where I get my music.
I still remember the day of getting stuff from Windows, you know, or from Microsoft's music store way back before Xbox and all that. And then I remember when they shut their servers down and you could no longer listen to the music, and I had to download a program to strip the DRM off of it and have that so I could keep my music. That was very irritating. So thank God we don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, DRM is terrible.
So anyway, so yep, hopefully that answers your question, Mike, and hopefully you can, you know, do what you need to do with there. It sounds like Apple iTunes for the bitrate quality of re-downloading that library is probably the way to go. I don't know if you're a Apple user or not.
And I think I don't think it goes to 320. I seem to remember it was like 192 or 256 or something. I don't think it goes to 320. The quality. I might be wrong.
Okay.
I'm off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up. But.
I think the standard was the 2 whatever, you know, for a lot of that stuff. But I think I had heard somebody when they talked about that when it first came out that it was the actual 320. Because I've ripped all my CDs at 320, which is the highest bit rate you can rip into it from an MP3 is 320.
It comes down as Apple's lossless AAC.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah. Very cool. All right, so let's move on to another quiz. This is from George. Or Jorge, because he actually sent me 2 different emails. We were kind of talking back and forth. So it says, "Hey Jeff, I really enjoy your podcast, and I really appreciate all the work you and the others put in the show. I know you might get this a lot, but I wanted to know what your process for removing malware and performing a tune-up on a PC is. It would be a really great if you can be specific on things, but just simple steps on what you will do. Thanks in advance." So. Yeah, you know what? We'll definitely. I think we'll, unless somebody wants to run. I know, you know, TechWaru has a lot of things in there that you can run through their list of things. I know there's a lot of technicians that have different things that they use. Chris does stuff in his remote support that's maybe a little bit different, and we'll definitely dedicate a show to that where we talk about the different things that we use. Yeah. Unless you guys got something that you know. I mean, this is definitely a deep topic. Again, we kind of touched on it a little bit today on some of the different tools and stuff we use. So we'll probably dedicate a full podcast to going over all the things that we actually use in our shops. But yeah, keep listening because I think almost every other show it seems like these things come up as far as different processes we talk about and different things that each technician does for their business.
Yeah, I agree. It kind of deserves its own whole show because it's not just the malware removal tools, it's also the stuff you do before and after the malware removal that kind of primes it for that, and then make sure that it stays that way. So it's a complicated, not complicated, it's actually relatively simple. It's just that there's a lot to it.
And
Right.
there's a lot of different ways of that people do it. So.
Right.
Let's see. Where are we at on? So I am. Okay. All right, so let me go into this next email, and George, thank you for the email, and we definitely will answer that in the future in its own little show. So this is from Joseph, and it says, so I just recently found your show, been watching for a while, them all on YouTube. I'd love to watch live, but, and he sends me a link to our podnutz.com. And on your YouTube video, or on your YouTube videos, there aren't any links where the show airs live and what time day they happen, or I'm blind. No, you're not blind. I did not have them there. I have the information there now on the YouTube channel. I'm constantly readjusting that. I spent a couple hours yesterday fixing all that. But anyways, so that information is on there, and we are live every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're over at podnutz.com/live. But that information is in there now, so definitely, hopefully, you've looked us up today. I did send an email back to him, and hopefully he's listening today. So, and it says, if 2 questions I had, please feel free to link me to your previous podcast if these have been discussed, are as follows. I'm a tech and do lots of side work outside my unrelated 9-to-5 job. I've recently moved back to the family-run computer repair business, and they are in need of help. We recently signed up for TechWaru and are still learning how to make it fit our needs in the shop. And in the midst of all this, I've learned about D72. What are the main differences between the two, pros and cons, and would you recommend one over the other? I hope this isn't a tricky question because I know you've had Ian from REPAIRTECH Solutions. Wow, this is a
How convenient.
On the show, but you were also doing a D72 giveaway, which I'm sad I missed. My second question is a bit of a two-part, and we'll go back to that. I've seen a few companies offering managed services, but they seem to be offered to residential customers also. What software would you recommend for putting on the residential computers or customers' machines that monitor things like hard drive health, AV status, BSODs, disabled firewall, low disk space, etc., etc.? However, some of the programs I've found don't seem to be aimed at residential or include unattended access, which is the second part of my two-part question. In my side work, I have about 3 users who have unattended access to their machines via TeamViewer for minor issues. However, the business does not do this. We currently use LogMe in Rescue. How do you handle liability of unattended access if you use it, or something that or is it something you stay away from completely? Thanks for the shows. We're looking to kick this business into overdrive, and I've watched and listened to about 8 hours worth of your shows in the last 2 days. Oh my gosh. Wow. Okay. It's all incredibly helpful. Keep up the good work, or keep up the great work. Joe. Thank you for the email, Joe. And really, you've had to listen to me drone on for 8 hours in the last 2 days? You poor, poor soul. Anyways, yeah, a lot of good questions here. So, Ian, since you put a blog post out about this anyways, why don't you kind of tell the differences? I kind of sent him an email back with my thoughts, but what the difference is between the TechWaru, and which he's obviously using right now, and D72, just from a simplistic standpoint.
Okay. I want to just throw this in there first. I'm probably biased here. I am biased here because
Sure.
I have a vested interest. So take everything I say however you will, but I'll say what I say to everybody else, which is that our focus is on automation and having the user interface be plug and play, and on reporting. And those are the things that we focus on the most. I think we also have a lot more going on the cloud end. For example, you can see screenshots of what's going on the systems at any given point, and you can see what's running on all the computers at the same time, and you can view your reports from the cloud and all that stuff, and there's technician accounts and everything. So there's a lot of web end stuff as well. But I think really what it comes down to is those three things, is the automation, the ease of use, and the reporting. And then the other aspect is that we have great customer support and training that's all free. And so and we update the software every 2 weeks. So those are the things. I'm sure that Nick over at Foolish IT would probably, if I had to anticipate what he would say, the strengths of D7 are over our software, it would probably be that it's more configurable. He's got all kinds of options in there for the more experienced technicians to customize it. I mean, we definitely have customization in there, but D7 definitely has all kinds of options, which has two effects. I mean, yes, it is more configurable, but it also makes it harder to kind of get up and running. So there's trade-offs there. But yeah, so that's, from my perspective, what the differences are. I'm not sure. I think there was another part to that. Am I missing something?
No, he just wanted the pros and cons, and would you recommend one over the other? And you basically, you laid it out. Yeah, you know, and that's basically what I said. There's two different tools that do things, you know, kind of the same but slightly differently, and it depends on what you're doing in your business and how you want to do it. You know, because I've used both tools, and they both work well. It just depends on whether you want, you know, a little more, I don't know, I want to say with a D7 a little more customizable approach to it, or do you want the basically I throw this on a system and I've, you know, you guys have set up the automation to set all that stuff up, and you know, you hit a button and you walk away. You know, that ease of use and different things. So, you know, it just depends on what tools and stuff you're using. But I think as far as, you know, a lot of these tools that both tools use are pulling tools from that we all use on a regular basis. We just do it in a manual format, whether we, you know, download malware bytes, or we download, you know, Spybot search and destroy, or, you know, we download whatever. And so, you know, there's a lot of, if you like things that are all in one place, both these tools can accomplish that. And what I always tell people is, I said, try them both out. Figure out which one is going to work better for you. And if you prefer one over the other, I'm not going to say that there's a better one over the other one, because number one, I can't. But number two, I wouldn't anyways, because they both are great tools as far as doing certain types of things, and they just do it a little bit differently. And it's all going to be on what's going to work best for you as you know, as a business owner, as a technician. So, anyone else? Cricket. Okay.
No, I'm good.
All right. So my second question is that is a bit of a two-parter. He's concerned about doing the you know, using TeamViewer, doing the unattended access to their machines. And Marvin, why don't you go ahead and address that one, because I'm sure that with your business prospects, you have a bunch of unattended access, that you have access to that customer's machine at any given time, and you could do anything nefarious that you wanted to.
That is true.
We're supposed to say that on a live show, man. Okay.
Well, here's the way. I guess you have to look at it from two perspectives, one from a business side and two from a residential side. For my business customers, the businesses have all written into their HR books or whatever when an employee starts that the computer is the property of the business, and they have to understand that the business is able to do with it anything that they please. It's going to be monitored. It needs to have access at any given time. They are not to do anything personal with it. And so from the business perspective, on my domain clients, I have the ability at any time to monitor what they do. And whether that's, you know, log into their system through an unintended access, or I have software that will show me live screenshots of what they're doing. So from the business perspective, I don't really have to worry about that too much, except that as long as I don't do anything, you know, nefarious or illegal. But most of that, yeah, creepy. But the customers, they're always going to think it's creepy. If they think that they can be watched at any time, that's creepy to them.
Sure.
But the bottom line is, I say, look, the only things that you have to worry about are if you're doing something wrong, and usually the owner of the business or the manager or HR or somebody's going to tell me, hey, pull the history for this person or watch what they're doing. And at that point, I have license to do that because I got told to do it by the person that signs the checks. On the residential side, I treat it a lot differently. For customers that are paying me for monthly maintenance or managed service and will grant us unattended access, then it becomes basically the same process as for the business. That means anytime I can get in. And I just tell them, look, we have to have an understanding that if I need to get in, I'm either going to tell you that I need to get in, or I'm going to call and ask for your permission if I know that you're not there. Because I think that's really the big thing is, at night, or if they're away from their computer for the weekend or something, they might think I'm going in there to, to look at something.
Right.
Which I really don't have time for that or want to. But that's really the only concern that I think that at least my residential customers have had. That who says you're not going in there at 3 in the morning and stealing my music or whatever. So.
Right. No, good points. Charlie, how do you guys deal with that over there at Boston Tech Collective?
Well, for the most part, maintenance agreement clients, it's sort of part of the whole monitoring thing is the ability to access it remotely. And we kind of go over that. And it's just sort of the same process where, the employees are told about it and, everybody kind of gets on board with it or not. Some people don't. And if that happens, then we also have, they can go to our site and give us sort of temporary access through Screen Connect. And on the residential side, it's kind of a case-by-case basis. Like I bring it up, I let them know that we can do this, and I kind of offer it. And if they're comfortable with it, which actually, surprisingly, a lot of people are, mostly because they need to know you and they need to trust you. It's not so much about whether or not someone has access; it's who has access.
Exactly.
With our setup, there's 4 people that make up our co-op. So that's the sort of maximum number of people that would ever have access right now. So, it's sort of just sort of explain them what's involved, and if they're not comfortable with it, that's fine. If they need something really quick, I can walk them through. They can install sort of the temporary version. Then when they're done, it just disconnects. And actually a lot of them like it because there's a little icon down in the corner that they can click and they can email us. So.
Right.
If something's going wrong, they can then get in touch with us either directly through the there's a chat client built in, or click a link and send an email kind of thing.
Right.
So, yeah.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, that's in Ian. Do you do any of that stuff or have anything to? I don't know if you did that back in the day, the unattended access.
Oh, I think no, we mostly did. What did we use? I think we used LogMeIn. We did remote repairs, but we never did any unattended access.
Okay. I think what I've found is a lot of customers. I'll be working on a customer's machine, and I don't even ask them to give me unattended access. I fix the problem and move on and whatever. And I'll get an email later for some reason that I don't know why, but they checked the little box and said, "Give Jeff unattended access." And I explain it to my customers. Listen. If you and I don't have a trust, and I think Charlie hit it on the head, then we shouldn't be even working together. Period. Because I have better things to do than to surf your computer. And I always tell my customers, I'm going to call and talk to you on the phone before I even go on your machine. And not only that, when I'm on your machine, you see a nice little floating pop-up from Instant House Call that says, I'm, Jeff Halash or whoever is on your machine at this time. So it's not like it's hidden. You know that I'm on there looking at something. I mean, for the most part, I would hope people would know that from that little message. Jeff Halash is controlling your machine now. So, from that standpoint, it's kind of like, again, it's just a trust factor. If a customers do it and I don't even ask them, and I guess some of them like it because if they call me up and they've got a quick question about something, I go, let me take a look and see what you're doing. But I mean, it's just for customers that don't want to do that, it's not a big deal. I have a logo on my website that you can click. It says Get Remote Support. Click it. It downloads a little installer. You run it, and boom, done. I'm in like 30 seconds flat. So either way, it's just I think from a business standpoint, Marvin, you probably agree with this that you got to have that unattended access because when somebody's 9 to 5 job computer goes down, they kind of want it worked on. Or if you need access to it overnight or something like that because you're doing something off hours. You've got to be able to do that stuff, or that person's going to have to wait when you're in the office or when they're in the office to get anything done.
Well, that is the biggest thing for a lot of the installations that we have to do. Leaving the computer on so we can do those installations is the biggest thing that we do that with our business clients. And it's not just the unattended access, it's the remote support. So whether it's RDP, or another type of remote access program. That's always going to be done on the business side. One thing that we didn't talk about, and you mentioned a little bit about the fact that they can see when you're in. And I think that's probably one of the bigger things that, a team viewer, a log me in, with the instant house call plugin, they will see you. Now, the downside is I've got a couple of programs I use where my customers don't know if I'm in, as long as I don't, move their mouse. But that's more from the business side, and if I don't want to name any products or get into any scenarios, but I've got those type of solutions where, if I've got a law office that the managing partner is going to say, what's he doing right now? And I've got to be able to get in that system and see what they're doing without them knowing. But there are products coming down the road that will give you the remote access, managed support, but cannot connect unless somebody is there to say, yes, let them in. So that's the difference I see in the unattended access for the customers that don't want you to have that full access without, carte blanche, but they want you to have it when they want it. They've got the icon at the bottom that says, hey, I need help. To where you can say, okay, I'm looking at your computer, here, hit this button so I can get in. I think that's probably one of the aspects that we're going to have to include for residential customers or whatever, that yes, we have, some access to their computer for monitoring, but we actually can't log on unless they say so.
That's a good point. Yeah, definitely. All right. So I think we've beat that one. Yeah, let's keep going. We're going good on time, and I definitely like to answer all these emails and get the responses back to people as quick as possible. I do actually email everyone back. I do reply to 100% of the emails. So with my own personal things on there. Sometimes if it's a long, complicated question, I'll just email you back and say, hey, this is a long, complicated question. We definitely will bring it up on the show, and definitely good for different show topics and stuff like that. This should be a quick and easy one. It says, hi, Jeff. I wanted to know if you have any favorite encryption programs that you use. I know TrueCrypt used to be the go-to solution for most people, but it has died since then. The reason I ask is I've been looking for an alternative program to protect files that I want to keep safe. Thanks, and keep up the good work. And that is from Jason. I sent Jason a link to Steve Gibson's website over at grc.com. Yep. Steve Gibson has a working TrueCrypt, the last working viable TrueCrypt download that you can get. And you can get that, and he still recommends it. He's got a whole blog page on there where he talks about it. He still recommends it as a good encryption software. The only problem that I'm seeing with it is I think that these things are not going to – a lot of people are using them for HIPAA compliance, and basically that's by another governing body. It's not governmental. It's not there's a whole – that's a whole nother thing to look at. But I think that because of the things that were said about TrueCrypt, whether it's been audited and it's good and it's 100%, I think your HIPAA compliance is going to be out the door. So I think for that type of thing, you're going to have to look for something else. But for your personal computers and, even a business laptop or something like that, that you don't want to get, leave at the airport by accident or whatever, that's a good solution. I also said Chris is working on, he's been using an encryption software for Lisa Hendrickson that they're giving to some of their clients to basically manage an encryption software. And so I don't know the name of that, but we'll talk about that with Chris and ask him to bring that stuff to the show and tell what he's using. What do you guys use encryption software for anything? And if you do, what do you use?
Yes, it depends. We've got some clients that have to use it, and some of them actually have existing deals with vendors. Like the sort of built-in Microsoft. What the hell is it called?
BitLocker.
BitLocker.
That BitLocker. And then File Vault on the Mac side. But no, I've mostly been still using TrueCrypt and especially now that it completed its security audit, and they found a couple of quirks with it, but nothing that would they're technically vulnerabilities, but the amount of effort involved in exploiting them is insane. So as far as I'm concerned.
Plus, I think with some of those, you'd have to be on Windows XP too. So it's
yeah, there's a lot of
I think there's a lot of Steve Gibson basically says there's a lot of non-issues with that. Yes, they need to be corrected in the software going forward, but it's not that big a deal.
And if you're in our industry, you really should be listening or watching Security Now, the podcast, because Steve is awesome. So I'll just put it at that.
No, that's good. Now you won't understand 90% of what he says, but it is good stuff. No, I listen to it every week because I get you kind of got to get an idea of what's going on in the industry when it comes to security. And again, that would be another great show to go into, the different security things that we do for customers from a business standpoint or residential standpoint or what have you. So that's a good point.
Yeah, and for anybody who's looking for support, I know that there's been a couple of forks of the original TrueCrypt. So I think is it Cypher, Shed, and
Yeah, I think part of the problem with that, Charlie, looks like I don't know if you froze up there. I think
a couple of new original that you might want to take a look at.
And Steve said that's fine for the way the file system is now. He said, but moving forward, we're going to have a problem here shortly where TrueCrypt is not actually going to work on, some of the newer file systems coming down the line. So
yeah, exactly. It's not end of life, but it's definitely someone else has got to pick the thing up and run with it.
Right.
So.
And from that standpoint, it's he said something about those guys that those guys kind of they tried to kill it off and whatever, and I'm like, yeah, what? A lot of times, you do a labor of love and you're doing it for 10 years, and you get to a point you're not making any money on this product, and you have families and other things that you're doing. You know what? I'm not against those guys for going, you know what, we're done. And you know what? The best way for us to leave is to say, this is no good anymore. And we're not supporting it. There's nothing that can ever come back and haunt us. We warned you. And they warned you on the website. So it's like, as far as they're concerned, they can wash their hands of it and go continue on with their lives. And so to me, it was perfect. It was a perfect way for them to leave something like that.
Yeah, it was literally a mic drop. They just like, nope, we're done. And
yeah, exactly. Ian, did you want to say something about that?
The problem. So I work with a bunch of people who are like security nuts.
Okay.
We work with a guy who used to work at the CIA doing software development. He also happened to work at Western Digital. And then a guy who worked at Amazon, and another guy who worked at another software company. And so I hear about a lot of huge exploits that come out all the time, and they stay on top of it more so than I do. And I hear about things like LavaBit, which is, I don't know if you guys are familiar with LavaBit, but it was a email encryption service where basically you could send encrypted emails really easily, and it felt just like Gmail or something. And the government asked them for their SSL certs so that they could put a man in the middle there and not have to worry about the encryption. And so LavaBit shut down. And so from my perspective, it's like, okay, there's no way the NSA didn't do that already with Facebook, Google, every single one of those things. So I'm under the impression that everybody's already reading my stuff anyway.
Right. I agree.
So to me, it's like either I'm going to go full, everything's encrypted, everything is, as secure as it can possibly be, or I'm going to not worry about it because the in the middle is almost pointless. I don't know, from my perspective, I'm sure a lot of people would disagree with me and say, well, every little bit you can do, and I understand that, but I'm freaking busy. So
right. Who has time to keep up with all that stuff, right?
Right. So I'm kind of, I would be happy to use Tor all the time. Well, Tor is not even half the nodes are owned by
its own issues.
The government. Yeah, whatever. So anyway, yeah. Listen, so I'm kind of caught in the middle there.
Yeah. If it's on the internet, if you're doing stuff on the internet, somebody could potentially look at it. Do they want to? Probably not, because you're a nobody. I'm just putting that out there.
Right. That being said, in terms of hard drive encryption, I use Ubuntu, and it's built into the operating system. You can just check a box.
Right. No, that's good. I think for, it does make sense. I don't carry around a laptop, so for me it's not a huge deal. I think if I was carrying around a laptop on a regular basis, I probably would have some sort of encryption on it. But to be honest with you, if somebody really wants to come in my house and take my big tower computer and carry the 90-pound beast out of here, whatever. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah, the only time I usually recommend or get involved with the whole disk encryption thing is for people that are worried about theft, like if they travel, from here to like all over the world or something, and they just want to have like one more safety net where if someone boots the machine up, they can't get into it, or if they pull the hard drive, they can't. So something like that, then I recommend it. But for the most part, it's really only your own personal safety net. If there's a state-sponsored sort of thing against you, good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Good point.
They have much better ways of getting it than just taking they can get your password from you.
Right.
So.
Exactly. All right. Well, I think let's move on to the next email, and then we've got a voicemail, and I think we'll end the show. This has been a long show, but it's I wanted to get this stuff out because again, I try to get this stuff in a timely manner as much as I can, and we don't really have a topic to talk about today, so that's why we're catching up on emails. It says this is for Jeff Halash. Why? Who else would it be for? No, I'm just kidding. So sometimes we use a lot of the same. Yeah. Oh, it could be. That's true. Yeah, this could be for Chris.
Come on now, you can't diminish the presence of Chris just because he's not here.
Well, he's not here. I can do whatever I want because he's not here. Anyways, all right. So, this is for Jeff Halash. I just wanted to compliment you on such a great job you're doing on Podnutz and Podnutz Daily. I listen to every episode. I sure hope you continue doing the show. I give you an A+ on the podcast. However, a lot of the content in the show does not show up in the show notes, so I have given you a D on that part. I know it is a lot of work to produce, and I'm grateful for it, but I think the show notes are 40% of what makes it a good podcast. I'm sure this will offend you, but if you want an excellent example of good show notes, take a look at Mike Tech Show. Thank you for all the hard work you do. Tim Petrie from Brain on Computers. Cool name and cool website. Thank you, Tim. I appreciate the feedback. No, I am not offended because I really don't care, but I'm too old to care. No, I'm just. With that being said, no, it is a good point, and there is something to be said for show notes. And I sent him an email back and just explained that with my 50+ hour, 9 to 5, which is not really 9 to 5, and 20 hours in my business and 10 hours plus doing podcasts and communicating with people and stuff. It's just probably not one of those things that I can always get to. And so with that being said, I said, if somebody out there wants to, listen to the show and put together show notes, I would be more than happy to add them. So again, kind of a community effort, and that's why we take your emails and different things like that, just to because without you guys, there would be no show. And that to me is the most important part of the show, is the audience listening and, are they contributing? And you guys are showing that you are contributing a lot. So I definitely appreciate that. Let us move on to, I want to play this voicemail. And let me see if I can pull this up. Talk amongst yourselves. All right. And I think it's this one here.
Hey, guys. Love the show and been listening for quite a while. I just had a quick question. I provide basically tech services for my family the way it goes. I don't have a business or anything, but wanted to ask you a quick question. We have a computer that has some proprietary software that we bought the license for, and we're trying to move it from this slow, older computer to a newer, faster computer. We don't have the installation discs anymore. Somehow they got lost. But I was just wondering, what is the best program to copy the hard drive and basically back it up onto a different hard drive and not lose functionality of the program? If you guys give me an answer to that on the show, that'd be wonderful. Thanks a lot. You guys have a great day. I'll keep listening. It's a wonderful show. It helps a lot. Bye-bye.
Thank you for that email. Obviously, that was an anonymous caller. I will say that, appreciate the call, really do. And if you want to, just kind of make sure that you, leave your name and, maybe where you're from or kind of, whatever. A name would be good, so I don't have to call you Hey. But anyways, no, I appreciate the voicemail and good information there. So what do you guys think as far as, moving a program from one computer to another? I'm at a loss myself. I have no idea.
That's a murky kind of thing. It can be really hard. I mean, you get. It really depends on what it is. I mean, are we talking like an application that uses a SQL database, or are we talking like I just moved a client. They had some other tech company quote them for $15,000 for a server, and their application, such as it is a hand-built thing that was made a million years ago, somewhere in like the mid 90s, that they've been just using forever, right? It was originally a DOS-based program, and they put a GUI on the thing, and it doesn't even require an installer. It just needs to run. It's that old. So moving that kind of thing, really easy. You just put it on a share, and they just click on it, and there it goes. But it really depends on what program it is, what it uses as its backend, how tied to the registry it is. I mean, there's a lot of, and there are some utilities that'll try and do that for you, but it could get really messy, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, and I was from a Windows standpoint. I mean, anything that's going to tie itself into the registry. My first thought was that that's going to be tough to get something, because I mean, when you're loading this stuff up, I remember back in the day. I mean, you could take some of these, some of the card game, different things like that, and basically they weren't really tied into the registry. A lot of them you could run from a CD, but you could also install it on a computer. It just didn't do anything with the registry. So you basically could take that program and move it over to another computer. Or a perfect example of that would be something like Minecraft today, which is using Java and stuff. You basically grab the whole file folder, move it over to another computer. You're not having to necessarily install a bunch of things because it's just kind of running in Java itself. So, but yeah, I don't know of any. Ian, I mean, you're the quote unquote tech guy, that writes software. So, you know of anything?
I don't think there's anything out of the box that works for. There's stuff that will help you migrate one application or another application. I think that what's it called? Fab's Auto Backup might be able to move a few applications, but I'm not sure, and I haven't used the most recent version. I really don't know.
It doesn't move applications. It'll
move
the settings for your applications, but it won't actually move the applications.
As far as figuring out which, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say sometimes moving an application in the way that they would like to do it would be sort of like taking a bowl of spaghetti and trying to move it to another bowl in exactly the same configuration as it started.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some software development tools that one of our guys uses for TechWaru when he's trying to figure out. I don't remember the name of it. I'll get it from him at some point. Okay. Maybe you can put it in the show notes. But it's an application you run, and when you run a different application, it'll monitor it and tell you what its dependencies are and what it's writing to the registry and where. So I guess theoretically, and I'm making this up as I go, you could run the application, see where it's writing and reading from, and then move those registry keys over to the other computer. Even that, though, I don't know if that's going to do it. Who knows?
Right.
Yeah. And then you'd have to track down all the DLLs, and honestly, really, what they should do, and even though if it is an old piece of software, I think it's actually worth the time and effort to try and find the developer if they still exist, and see if you can work out a deal, because it's probably going to be cheaper than having someone try and jury rig something, especially if it's that kind of business critical application. You don't necessarily just want to have it jury rigged. You want it to be reliable, and if you can't track down the original developer, then kind of work from there. But
yeah, I don't think there's any great solution to that. You can try to find a repository online, that may have had that software, or I mean, if it sounds like if it was on a disk, they may have not had downloads for that at the time, and maybe there is no repository for it. So
the only thing I will say is my guess is, just because we deal with a lot of these randomly assembled, back in the early 2000s and 90s, there was a lot of these software vendors that would just sort of take an Access database, slap a GUI, like some sort of graphical thing on top with the company logo, and they would just sort of kick that out the door and then charge them, a few $100s to $1,000 or more every year for maintenance. It's probably one of those, but we don't know what it is, so we can't. Right. There's no way to really give him any kind of advice. If he gets in touch with any of us, we can see what we can do.
Absolutely. Well,
But
yeah,
we
definitely
definitely
appreciate that voicemail. Yeah, definitely reach out. Hopefully we can, help you kind of figure that out or see if there's a way to definitely find that. So with that being said, I'll tell you what, Charlie, what's the best way people can find you?
No. Well, me personally, I'm over on the supposedly ghost town of Google Plus, so you can find me. I'm over there, so just search for Charlie Hoover, and I'll pop right up. If you like geeky stuff, I ask a question every day. But in terms of the business, I would say BostonTechCollective.com. That's where you can find pretty much everything about us. We're a worker-owned co-op, so we're a little different than most IT shops, but yeah, that's pretty much us. We're also on Twitter at Boston Tech Co-op, if anybody wants to follow us. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
No problem.
Hey, and Ian, if people wanted to find you and what you're up to, oh wait, you have that one tool. Yeah, go ahead and let people know where they can find you at.
Sure, they can check us out at REPAIRTECHsolutions.com. You can also shoot me an email directly at ian@REPAIRTECHsolutions.com.
Absolutely, cool. Appreciate you coming out on the show and sharing today.
Of course, it's always fun.
A lot of good information, man. Appreciate it. And Marvin, go ahead and pimp yourself since Chris ain't here.
Somebody's got to do it, right? I am Marvin at mbsystems.net, and I am on Google+. I'm also MB Systems Inc. in all the chat places, and Uncle Marv over at TechNibble.
Uncle Marv. That's you know what? I'm going to call you that from now on. When I see you in Chicago, Uncle Marv. Well, I appreciate you coming out on the show and sharing today, and also, helping us out with some technical things. So I appreciate that. Hey, we do the Podnutz Computer Repair Podcast every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern over at podnutz.com/live. We'd love it if you guys would come and watch and join in on the conversation by hanging out in the chat room or calling in live. You can do that. We also have on-demand audio and video always available after the fact over at podnutz.com and my YouTube channel, Podnutz Live Show for Computer Repair Techs. You can find me on Google Plus at Jeffery Halash or Twitter at TechNutPC. And if you're a computer repair tech and would like to be a guest on Podnutz Daily where you can talk about your business, email me at podnutzdaily@podnutz.com. You guys can also email questions and feedback for this show over at podnutz@podnutz.com. You guys, if you want to leave a voicemail when we're not here live, you can leave a voicemail at 1-888-697-0162. If you guys could do us a favor, leave us a rating and review over on iTunes. That lets more people know about us, and we will also share those on the show. You guys can also help support the Podnutz Network. The next time shopping on Amazon, go to podnutz.com/Amazon. And I want to thank everyone for listening and subscribing to the show. We'll see you next time on Podnutz, the Computer Repair Podcast.
Dance, everybody.
I'm not dancing. Now whoever comes to ChannelCon, I might dance there in front of everybody. So you never know. Never know what you might miss.
I'm going to break out the cardboard.
Yes, break out the card. Somebody called me out the other day, or it was a few months back, and they said, "Oh, I got to see proof." So I had a picture that I went and scanned it real quick and shot it up to them. They're like, "No way." Yeah, we had the cardboard out there with the boom box and everything.
All I'm saying is, if you go from like working on a computer and then just start doing like some breakdancing, and then go back to working on the computer, that would be YouTube gold. That's all I'm saying.
That's true, Charlie. I think you've got a hit there. Yeah, we could do that. Man, if I breakdance today, I might break something. So no, that ain't happening.
Yeah.
There's some clever name for a computer repair shop that also does breakdancing. It's PC break something. I don't know. It's in there somewhere.
There you go. Yeah, it's funny when it comes to
dance fix.
Oh,
something like that.
Nice. That'd be
That's
good.
Piper. Breakdance to EXE. I don't know.
Oh. Looks like I was just looking in the chat room. Looks like Highlander he said he had his third Indian MS scammer or Microsoft scammer call today.
Oh man, I've been dealing with them with all my clients. Like it's been
Really?
going like crazy.
Okay.
I've lost track now. So many of my clients have called me in a panic because they got this call from Microsoft. I mean, I've actually got them on the phone a few times. I don't know if you guys have, but
Oh yeah, they're actually calling both my business and my home, and they're actually getting quite annoying and brazen.
Oh,
Quite rude.
Wow.
actually, I made one guy upset because I basically instead of like yelling at him, I just made him question his life by asking him how he could live with himself, stealing money from old people and all that kind of stuff, and I had him practically in tears. It was kind of fun. And I don't feel bad in the slightest.
Oh.
I had one client that spent $450 something on one of these guys.
Oh yeah, I've had that before, and I had one, and this was not even an MS scammer. This was a person who it was $450, and they downloaded. He was trying to get some help with his with like WinZip, and so I guess WinZip has some malware removal tools or something nowadays that are free. I don't know anything about it, but anyways, that's what this company did was they downloaded all this WinZip malware tool stuff and put it on the computer, charging $450, and so I basically had to tell the guy, I'm like, listen, we're gonna get all the stuff off here, I'm gonna clean all the stuff up. I said, you need to go make a police report. You gotta go down to the police station, So he actually was able to call him back, and I guess he got his money back. They stopped it on the credit card or something, so that worked out for him. But yeah, a lot of times, man, I've had to write letters for people that have been scammed, because the insurance company doesn't want to, do anything to, they go, whoa, wait a minute, and they want a, real technician to work on it. They don't want friends and family working on the machine. They're like, yeah, I need letterhead with a business name on it. I'm like going, anybody can print those out, right?
Yeah. Oh, and don't forget, you'll probably have to fax it to that.
Oh Lord. Yeah.
Attorneys love
to fax anything. I got to go somewhere to fax it.
Oh, yeah, I can do it from my phone, but what was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. So actually, something I've been noticing with clients, because I've been trying to find out why the sudden uptick, and turns out that some of them are actually deliberately calling into these people. Like they're not getting called; they're calling because they're poisoning the search results on Google.
Yep.
So they'll type in HP help, and a big phone number comes up.
Yep.
They call that number, and it is not HP. And I think Google really needs to, especially when it's with that search result, it's a huge number. Like it's not subtle. It's that sort of helpful box they try to put at the top of the search now.
Right.
Where like if you ask it, did the Red Sox play, whatever, and they'll put the thing. It's that same style box, only it's a fake phone number.
Yeah, I've been telling people, do not click a sponsored box or whatever they say, most favorable results. Actually try to find, the actual site of where you're going. We just started, I haven't actually sent them out yet, but what we're doing now is we're actually giving, or going to be giving all of our customers, we're going to provide a list of manufacturer support numbers. And say if you need help, call this number or go to this website. Do not go anywhere else. So we're going to start doing that.
It's actually not a bad idea. I think I'll throw that on our website.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Couldn't hurt.
Well, in a lot of times, so it's teaching people what to do, right? So the other thing is, you'd say, hey, instead of searching in the search bar for HP, why don't you just go to hp.com?
Yeah.
It's not that hard, really. It's not.
Well, yeah, and I'm running into a different version of this, by the way. One of the things that I signed up for is I'm teaching a computer class at an ESL school for adults.
That sounds like fun.
Nah. You're a saint.
Yes.
So the next 3 weeks, two times a week. Well, I've already gone through and done a bunch of stuff with them, but the big thing I'm going to be teaching them how to do is how not to get screwed searching for things on the internet. Because they open up Internet Explorer and they just start typing stuff in and they click on everything because they don't speak English as a primary language. There's even worse. Like they don't know. And let alone like a lot of my clients that are like sort of in the senior range or not necessarily senior, but they just assume that because they have antivirus or something that it's protecting them, and no.
Right. Well, and that's the hard part. So that's good that there are people out there teaching, helping people to understand certain basic things. that they need to do or not do, when they're dealing with stuff. So
that's why we
I
do free
think you
workshops.
could have a whole comedy show that's just dedicated to teaching people above the age of like 45
Oh,
how to.
wow.
oh,
Whoa.
Ian,
Hey, relax. Let me finish my
hold
sentence.
your
all right?
tongue.
Relax. All right. How to stream videos. Like, have you
Legally?
ever no. Like, have you ever streamed TNT or something and watch a basketball game or anything? It's hilarious how many of these Xboxes pop up and how many times it asks you to update Flash or whatever. And I tried to explain to my dad one time how to tell if it, because sometimes you actually have to click the X. It's just, and I can't even understand why I know which X to click, right? It's just like an intuition thing. And I think that it would be hilarious to just get like grandmas and stuff and try to show them this X versus that X.
That'd be awesome.
Anybody like, and I know this is probably really controversial, but anybody above a certain age, I automatically install ad blocking on their browser, and I realize how controversial that is. But I can't tell you the number of support calls it's cut down for me. Just because they're not seeing the ads, and I tell them, you can, if you go to a website and you want to support it, here's how you turn it on. But I find that most of their, like the random crap that just that happens to them, stops happening to them if they don't see the ads, because ads are getting poisoned. They're getting, even that in the case of that phone number thing, that doesn't show up. So I realize it's kind of a gray area, especially.
Right.
I mean, there's people who are like younger that would benefit from that too. I mean, honestly, I would just install ad blocker on everybody's computer.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you though. The number one venue that I still see infections coming through is still email.
Oh, email's huge.
I mean, it's just that is like the number. Everybody says that there's all these drive-bys and poison ads and stuff and there probably is.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of them.
But I don't ever see them. And my customers, it's like I can usually trace it back. It's either that or it's the Flash exe. Is some of the big,
that's exactly where the advertising thing comes in, because they'll get an ad that will pop up and say they need to update Flash Player Pro or whatever.
Well,
and
these
then
people
they
are trying to watch a video, so that has nothing to do with Flash Player.
No, I know. But you know what I mean, like.
I won't say what type of video, but
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, but it's just people are just caught unawares, and again, because they have antivirus, they assume they're immune, and it's really having a conversation with them, saying, no, antivirus mostly smoke and mirrors. Really, what keeps you from getting infected is you.
Right.
And just stop and look, and if you didn't expect an email, don't click on the link. If your bank sends you an email, go to the bank site directly.
Exactly.
Don't.
Well, one of the things I've been testing Bitdefender out here for the last couple months, and one of the things I like about it is a lot of people talk about putting whether it's a free antivirus, Microsoft Security Essentials, Malwarebytes, and things like AdBlocker, Web of Trust, and different things. And really, Bitdefender has all that stuff rolled into their product, their Internet Security Suite, and it does all those same types of things. And I think from a customer standpoint, it does it very well. Now I had a problem configuring the firewall, because it was slowing my YouTube videos down to buffering every 5 seconds. But once I talked to them and figured that out and turned some of the things off on the firewall that really weren't needed anyways, then it was fine.
I'm not a big fan of the software firewalls.
Yeah, I use the I like the Windows firewall just fine. It works.
It's fine. Yeah, nothing. A firewall's not going to keep them from getting infected ananyway.
No. But one of the nice things, so like the Web of Trust, so when you go and do a search, what it does is it puts little green check boxes by the links, and it puts red X's to the bad links that that it feels that are bad or whatever. So those visual type of things that somebody can look at and go, oh no, I don't want to click on that, even though I see that number come up. See, a lot of times I think that stuff would stop them from getting that stuff on there.
Yeah, I use Web of Trust a lot for certain kinds of clients, and it does cut down a lot. And I show them my usual demo is to search the word screensaver, which is a word they would not normally associate with bad things.
Right.
And I show them all the red links.
Right. No, exactly.
And it does every little bit helps, but it's mostly about education.
Yeah.
Anybody who didn't really grow up with it or just is too busy, or has been burned in the past, it's hard.
Yeah.
So, and
Well,
it's very
yeah,
hard to scale that. Like if you're trying to deal with businesses, I mean, I deal with mostly like I do a mix of residential and business.
Right.
My partner Yohai, he's all business. It's two totally different mindsets.
Right.
So.
Yeah, there are some similarities between them, but yeah, you're right. There's
Well, like you can be a little bit more, I don't want to say dictatorial, but you can be a little bit more strict with the business clients.
You can, but here's what's happening. So a lot of these people are actually finding ways around. It's like, oh, hey, we blocked Facebook at the router level, and people are still finding workarounds to get to Facebook
Of course.
business, and it's like, and you were savvy enough to do that. But you can't figure this other simple thing out that how you got infected with this or what,
Right.
whatever. And it's
I
like,
figured
wow.
what a proxy is. Oh, well,
Yeah,
great.
exactly.
Yeah. It's like,
So,
well, it's like when I talk to parents about their kids, and because they're always asking, oh, what should I use to remotely monitor, like whatever, and I just tell them that after a certain age, it's really gonna come down to you sort of having a communication with them because they can get around anything you install. Monitoring is better than blocking in that case. So.
yeah, I use OpenDNS through my router.
Yeah, I was gonna say OpenDNS is a really good one.
And yes, if you're savvy enough and you can research and find the IP address for said website, yes, you can get around that or set your
The big
DNS.
thing is it gives you they can go in and see a log.
Exactly.
So that helps.
Anything that they do. I'm just going to be, criminals are not good at hiding stuff, even though they think they are, and neither are kids. So it's always, you can always find it. They were not, I wasn't smart enough to clean up after my own stuff. I got caught all the time, so I know how it is. But
yeah, exactly. Kids are kids.
Exactly. And I just tell them, if you're doing, I've told them straight up, one time, you do something on there that's really, really bad one time, your computer's gone. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. So far that's worked for me. So I've got 5, and they're the bad thing is you've got especially with YouTube nowadays, and you've got the 10 and 8-year-old on there watching the the Minecraft videos and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, you wish there was a little bit more that you could do as far as the content. It's like the game content itself is not bad, but it's just like,
right.
Why is that 12-year-old cussing like that? I don't understand it.
Oh yeah,
Where's their parents at?
Yeah, they're worse than like any sailor or whatever. Video game. Oh man, the videos are hysterical.
Yeah, they are. It's funny, but wrong.
Stream of expletives. Yeah.
So, anyways, all right. Well, I think we went on with a long show. You guys can hang out, but I think we're going to officially stop the broadcast here, and you guys can again. Everybody can join us live every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over at podnutz.com/live. And we'll see y'all next week. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.